New Comics Reviews. Welcome to Garage Geek, where this episode is proudly sponsored by the Auditory Vinyl. Go check his channel out. So recently I showed some comics that I bought in a haul. And I buy a lot of comics. I buy a lot of things. And then I will put them aside and forget to get to them. In order not to be a hypocrite, I'm going to go through each one of these comics. As an overview, the comics that I bought are Long Cold Winter, Wonder Woman All In #1, DC Horrors Volume 1 and 2, Batman Full Moon, it's in there, you could see it. Batman Full Moon issues 1 and 2. That one's hard to see. It's got that white protective cover. And Hello Darkness numbers 1, 2, and 3. So those are the comics that I'll be going over in this video. The first comic that I'm going to be going over is Long Cold Winter #1, put out by Mad Cave. Now I'm going to just say I bought this because of the quirky art. I mean, look at that. It's really cool. I'm going to say that while I did enjoy the issue, the art was better than the story. The story seemed to jump around a bit. Not that it was hard to follow, but it just seemed that there was a flow issue. However, the artwork in this is stunning, and I'm going to be showcasing the art throughout. But you're going to have full page spreads like this, and you're going to be looking at the details as you go through page by page. There's just so much great art in this that I'm absolutely getting the next issue of this just because I loved the art. When it comes to story, it's basically a samurai in the future who decides to help a robot boy get to a destination. So nothing new when it comes to story, but the art is such a feast. So I'm going to give this comic overall, oh, this is my favorite panel. I'm sure I'm going to showcase that page. Overall, I'm going to give this comic book a 2.5. Although if you're interested in quirky art, you should absolutely buy this comic book. The next comic I'm going to review is Absolute Wonder Woman #1, part of the All In series. I have not read Absolute Batman or Superman, but they're getting great reviews, and I'm going to have to say that I thoroughly enjoyed this issue. It's very reminiscent of the New 52 run. I think that was Azzarello and Chang. This issue basically reinvents the origin of Wonder Woman. So instead of growing up on the island of Themyscira, she is put in hell to fend for herself. Although she is put in charge of someone who reluctantly takes care of her until she grows to love her. You're going to see some very gorgeous panels in this because she comes from quote unquote hell. It's not the hell that we think of, more hell of the gods, basically a wasteland. But you're going to see her flying in on a Pegasus made of bones. I do want to showcase, you have this great 2-page spread. They make it very cinematic. Her guardian slowly grows to love and appreciate Diana, and she does it over 3 pages of art that goes across this way. And as it goes, you just see the details develop. She brings more and more into their home to make it more of a home for the child. As you can see there, she's bringing to bed. And this takes place over 3 pages. This alone is worth buying the issue. These 3 pages are phenomenal. I loved the way that this is developed. And by the 3rd page, Diana is already grown and she's questioning where she comes from. The rest of the issue is a battle. She has this very manga-ish sword. She has different powers than Wonder Woman that we're used to, but it's a fresh take, and I really enjoyed the art. The story was pretty good, but that 3-page layout is so worth buying this issue. And then the other splash pages in this are very well done. I'm going to rate Absolute Wonder Woman 4 out of 5. I love horror anthologies, and when I saw this art on the cover of DC Horror #1, I just had to buy it. But unfortunately, this issue is such a letdown. I didn't enjoy it at all. I think it's difficult to do horror anthologies right. Many companies, like the Warren, they'll have a story, and then there's a joke at the end, and sometimes that joke will destroy the tone of the rest, and you just got to get used to it because that's kind of their gimmick. Well, they do it in this, and it just ruins it. And then, for example, the first story is based on one of their franchises, a Dollhouse, where the idea is interesting. I did not enjoy it. It seemed the whole story, the young girl who's psychotic and she's a serial killer, she's working for an end and an aim, and then at the very end of the issue she destroys it all in one panel. It was just a little silly, and then they threw a joke in on it. I didn't enjoy it. The second story is a Wonder Woman story, and this one was a little better. In this story, Wonder Woman's mother comes back to the dead, and they have to get her back into her tomb. Like I said, it was just okay. I'm going to give this issue of DC Horror a 2 out of 5. Unfortunately, I bought DC Horror number 2. You know what? I don't regret it because that cover art is stunning. However, this issue is not good either. In the first story, we have two people who are dressed up like Batman and Wonder Woman, and we don't understand that they're just in costume till like the second or third page. But they go into this warehouse and they find what do you call those? The dummies, a ventriloquist dummy. And I mean, it's okay, but there's a twist ending that I just thought was silly. And then the second story is Penguin from Batman, the Batman villain, is being stalked by the ghosts of the people that he's killed. It wasn't scary, it wasn't very good, and I just didn't enjoy it. So again, I'm going to give this comic a 2 out of 5. Would I buy the third issue? Well, there's 2 more issues of this, and unfortunately I am going to buy them because these covers are just so gorgeous.
I want the complete set.
The next issue I bought was Batman Full Moon number 1, and this is from the Black Label. I have to say that I thoroughly enjoyed this. I did not expect that I would enjoy this as much as I did. And the reason I did is because the art is so good. You're going to see that as I talk about issue 2, it's going to change a little bit, and it keeps your interest from issue to issue. So I don't know how he does this. It seems like it's computer-generated art that is drawn over or layered over. It's very realistic. It's so cool. A lot of the panels are very dark, but it fits the mood of this. Like a lot of the times in this issue, you'll just see dark areas, and then you'll just see little pinpoints for the werewolf's eyes. In case you didn't know it, Batman has to battle a werewolf, but there's so much really neat art in this. This has great splash pages, which I know I'm going to show that one. This has some of the supernatural characters that show up, like Man-Bat and Zatanna and John Constantine. This was a really fun issue, and it has a Black Label because of the violence. So by the end of this issue, Batman is in a showdown with the werewolf, and he is not doing well. I'm going to give that comic a 4 out of 5. Next, I'm going to go over Batman Full Moon number 2. Look at that pretty cool cover. This continues the great art, the interesting story. Now, not to spoil it, Batman is attacked and he does not come out well. He's only saved by Alfred, but the art in this is stunning. And so in his werewolf attack, he does transform into a werewolf, and it's a Batman comic, so if I spoil it, I'm very sorry. I have to show off the art at the end of this comic. When he transforms in very much Batman style, he thinks that he has enough control that he can fight it off, but he just goes ahead and puts everyone in danger instead of listening to everyone around him and putting him somewhere safe in case he transforms. But the ending art on this, when he actually transforms, yeah, this is so stunning. I'm sure I'm going to be showing close-ups of it. And then in the end, when he's fighting when he meets the other werewolf and he's wearing his little bat cape, it's great. I'm going to have to say that this comic is nudged up to a 4.5 because who doesn't want to see Batman as a werewolf? Next, we come to Hello Darkness, the Boom Anthology, horror anthology. And here's issue number 1. Now, I wanted to get this for that gorgeous, gorgeous cover. I mean, it just looks like a noir paperback. It's stunning. But what you don't realize is that this is such a great comic throughout. Not only are the stories great, but they have snippets in between and full page art pieces that just push this horror anthology to the next level. This is what DC should have done, and Boom just beat them at their own game. This comic is phenomenal. I did hear other people on YouTube saying that they didn't like this issue, and I'm very surprised. So please take my opinion with a grain of salt. I thought this was masterly done. First story is about children who kill their parents based on some kind of virus or contagion that is spread through whispering. Now, what I loved so much was they would have these one-page jokes. I'm going to be featuring them on the screen as I'm talking. These things were golden. I loved every one of them in the 3 issues that I had. And even if they weren't always funny, they were really interesting and intriguing. The first one here is, I would like to purchase your teeth. So it takes the idea of the Tooth Fairy and turns it into something horrible. Imagine that, waking up to that, and it's demanding you to buy your teeth. What is so cool about these issues is you get these one-page art spreads. And you might recognize this later in the video because the different color of this is going to be on issue 2. They also put the next cover in the back. This comic is so well done. The next story is called Stay in Your Lane, and it's about a disgruntled bowler. And it also is violent and well done. The art was fun. The next is A Monster Hunter Walks into a Bar, Part 1. And initially I thought Part 1 was okay, but when I got to Part 2 in the next issue, I really started to enjoy this more. Basically, the main character for Something is Killing the Children goes into a bar in a town, and I haven't read that series. And she sits there and she starts listening to what's going on. And like I said, it was good, but it gets better by the second issue. Next, we have this. The art in this is just really different, quirky, and nice. So this is about a lighthouse keeper who has an encounter with a mermaid, and it turns the idea of the mermaid, Little Mermaid, from the Hans Christian Andersen story, and it turns it into a horror story. And it's for 3 pages. The art and the story in this were pretty cool. Next, we have this. This one was just weird. It was called The Foster. And in this, people foster body parts to keep them alive until they're needed. And this one was really weird and sexual. And people don't think it's repulsive because they're doing it for a good cause. And so this person seems to be doing it because it will garner him the attention. And in fact, he starts having sex with people who start to really enjoy the hand in weird ways. It's just a very strange and weird story. And it did have a strange ending. I'm going to cover it up so you can't see, but I want you to see that art. And then the last story is quite long and it's called The War. And this one was written by Garth Ennis. And this starts up a story of an end of times story. It doesn't happen until the very end. Sorry, spoilers. But in this section, they're at a party and we're introduced to the characters and how they interact, how they behave to each other. And it's actually really well done. I look forward to seeing where this series, that story goes. So I am going to give Hello Darkness #1 a 5 out of 5. I'll go over Hello Darkness #2 a bit faster, but I got the variant cover, although I will probably end up buying the other one as well. The first story is this really cool story about a clown. And you can see that this is done in a manga style, and I usually don't like manga, but there are certain manga that I really do like. And I loved the style in this one. The black and white, the drawing, it's really good. And it has a pretty interesting story. Then you get this full page art spread. Look at that. That is just gorgeous. I love that they put art spreads in these. The next story was not horrible. I just didn't think it was up to par with the rest of them. But the art was really weird and quirky. And it's about, I don't want to give it away, but I will show that there is a werewolf at the end. Now, if you like the art on this page, well, then you'll like the rest of the story. It's just the art style is very different. There's another one-page art piece of someone creepy looking out as the person is typing. Look at the gorgeous art on that. Next story, Apocalypse in Slow Motion, is about a cult during the apocalypse who punish the people who brought about the apocalypse. The art is interesting. It's a weird story, and at the end we have this Earth goddess, Mother Earth maybe. It was an interesting story. And then again we have this. I absolutely love these. We have two on this one. While perhaps not the best use of time travel, Jim liked to go to the past and beat the shit out of himself. And he says, F you, as he's like beating up his past self. Oh, we got this beautiful one-page Jenny Frison. And then we get the war, the second part of the story. And again, the war is quite lengthy in this, but it's pretty intriguing. And at the very end of the issue, we get the cover for the next issue, issue number 3. I'm going to give Hello Darkness number 2 a 4.5 out of 5. And the last comic I'm going to review today is Hello Darkness number 3. Now, the first story right out of the gate is so good. It's one of these suburban horror stories where people are trying to outdo each other on YouTube, and it just gets crazier and crazier. I do not want to spoil this because it's such a cool story. The art is interesting. It's just two people in a suburb who have YouTube presences, and they want to always outdo each other. And they go to extreme lengths. Then we get a great full-page art spread that's quite dark. And here we got I Can't Take You Anywhere by Hack. Like I said, even when they're not that great, it's just such a breath of fresh air to have these like one-pagers like they used to do in the past in the comic book. The next story is the second part of the Something is Killing the Children. A monster hunter walks into a bar. We got a great story by one of the bar patrons who tells about what he saw. And then we get this double-page Jenny Frison spread. Look at that. It's just so cool to open up a comic and see a giant art piece like that. Next, we have some kind of war and Cthulhu horror type story, and it was fine. I enjoyed it, but we do have this Cthulhu-like god of war who just... We got this beautiful art piece after it. And that one is by Jeremy Bastian. And then we're ending the comic with The War Part 3. In this, the characters are facing a nuclear holocaust, and they're trying to escape before it happens. They know it's going to happen. Spoilers. It's I don't know how many more parts of this story there's going to be, but it's very interesting so far. And then we get the, a full-page art piece for issue number 4. I'm going to have to say that I need to give this a 4.5 or a 5. This anthology series is just amazing. If this had been done in magazine size, this would have been so good. There you have it. The comics that I bought recently, I actually read them and I'm happy, and I didn't just put them in a box somewhere. I'm so glad that I read these. I bought many of them just because of the art, but I was so surprised at some of these. This Hello Darkness series is, if you're a horror anthology aficionado, you need to be reading these. And if you are, you probably already are. And what surprised me is this Batman, what is it called? Batman Full Moon. I'm having a lot of fun with this. Big letdown, DC horror. I really didn't think it to be. It's not that it's horrible. It's just, it seemed like DC said, oh, horror anthologies are really big right now. Let's jump in and make our own. Having said that, though, this Absolute Wonder Woman was great. And I really do need to track down Absolute Batman and Absolute Superman. And then this was just a lot of fun for the quirky art. If you're reading any of these comics or you want to make some suggestions to me, go ahead and please leave those in the comments. And as always, I want to thank everyone for the support.